So welcome back to Hour 2 of the Malzberg Show. I'm Rick Unger filling in for Steve today, who is enjoying some well-deserved family time for the holiday weekend. There's a clip I would like you all to see. It's President Obama speaking a few weeks ago at the White House with Iraqi Prime Minister al-Abadi. And after we watch it, we're going to bring in Larry Elder to discuss what's going on these days with us, Iraq, and ISIS. Should be an interesting conversation, but first, watch this.
And under Prime Minister Abadi's leadership, the Iraqi security forces have been rebuilt and are getting re-equipped, retrained, and strategically deployed across the country. Now, this is a long process, and in our discussions, Prime Minister Abadi made clear that the success will not occur overnight. But what is clear is that we will be successful.
Difficult thing to listen to in view of what's happened in the past week or two in Iraq. You have to wonder if we were getting the right story during that meeting, because we saw that the Iraqi forces didn't exactly hold up very well on Ramadi. Here to talk about that and a host of other subjects, kind of a week in review, joining us is Larry Elder, radio host of The Larry Elder Show and author of Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 Lives, 8 Hours. Larry, welcome.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you having me.
So, Larry, I want to first tell people where they can listen to your show. Is it LarryElder.com?
That's right, LarryElder.com. I'm live right from 3 until 6, the way I've been for about 20 years.
Excellent. And it's a great show. If anybody's crazy enough to have missed it, or if you didn't live in L.A., where I did live for a long time, fantastic show. So, Larry, I don't know if you were able to hear that clip.
I did.
In view of what's taken place in Ramadi, I mean, what are your thoughts about what we just watched?
You know, Rick, I was watching last Sunday when the former Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, interviewed with Bob Schieffer of CBS. He said that it was a huge mistake for us to pull out the troops, not just because of intelligence, not just because of access, but because we weren't there, and as a result, the Iraqi government fired every single general that we had trained and placed there because they had expertise, and replaced them with political hacks. That's why the Iraqi army went away, not so much that the grunts wanted to leave, but they had no leadership. Yeah. Same thing we just now saw in Ramadi. So I don't know what war Obama's talking about. It looks to me like we're losing it. Richard Engel is a war correspondent for NBC, not exactly a neocon, and he says that without boots on the ground, sufficient boots on the ground, he doesn't see how we can win this, and that's been echoed by a number of other experts as well. You know,
it's interesting. I saw the interview with Secretary Gates also, and I too heard what you just recounted. What I find interesting about that is now you have to acknowledge that we have twice made a mistake that resulted in the problem. Let's just say the original mistake being when we did the initial invasion of Iraq and we decided to fire all of the Sunni commanders in the army there. Many of those same Sunni commanders are now the leading commanders in the ISIL forces. Then, as Gates pointed out, we maybe made a mistake in not keeping troops there, and yes, we're seeing a lot of incompetent people who filled the roles after we left. So you kind of got this ongoing error. The question is, what do we do now? We're seeing that the American people are becoming slightly more comfortable with the idea of American boots on the ground, but do you think we need to go with American boots on the ground, or should this be a regional exercise where maybe it's the Saudis, Jordanians, and other allies?
Well, Rick, I haven't been impressed with the expertise of the regional allies that we supposedly have. I don't see how this is going to be a successful deal until and unless we put sufficient boots on the ground. I'd grab people like McChrystal and Petraeus and put them in a room and say, win this thing for us the way you turned around Iraq with the surge, and let's figure out what we're going to do. One more thing, if I may, Rick.
Yeah.
The interview that we were talking about with Gates, he also said this about Iran. I know we're talking about Iraq, but this is very important. He said that Obama is pursuing this deal with the hope, his word, that after 10 years, when the sanctions are removed and Iran has a better economy, they will then turn away from terrorism, to which Robert Gates called this, quote, unrealistic, close quote. So this is quite an indictment for a former Secretary of Defense to both say that the Commander-in-Chief should not have pulled the troops out, A, and B, the deal he's pursuing with Iran is based upon a hope and is unrealistic. Pretty damning.
Since you brought that up, Larry, let's talk about the interview that the President did with Jeffrey Goldberg over at The Atlantic, where I thought he said something pretty interesting. He noted that this deal, whether or not Iran ends up with a nuclear bomb, is going to have his name written all over it. So rather than the argument that we've been hearing that the president is really just looking to kick this issue down the road, kick the can, so to speak, that he does view this as something that's going to be forever linked to his name and his legacy. Does that in any way alter the way you view the way the president's approaching this nuclear agreement?
It doesn't, because whether he said that or not, he's still a young man. He's going to be around for a very long period of time. Yeah. So whether he recognizes that he's going to have to live to see the fruits of his efforts or not, he will live to see the fruits of his efforts. So I wasn't impressed by that. I also was struck by a number of things. How incredibly naive he sounded. He said the Saudis and the Gulf states were happy with this deal, that he felt that the Saudis were not going to pursue a nuke. Are you kidding me?
Well, I read the piece. I don't remember him saying that he thought they were happy with the deal.
Yeah,
but he did
they
say,
were, quote, fairly satisfied, close quote, verbatim.
He did say that he didn't believe that the Saudis would pursue their own nuclear weapon, and you might be right about that and being skeptical.
Well, I just read that the Saudis are trying to buy some nukes from Pakistan. So
well, at the same time, though, he made an interesting point that I'll point out, and that is that why would the Saudis want to do that when they're way better off having us standing up in their defense? Why do you think they would go the nuclear route unless they don't believe we will stand up in their defense?
Of course they don't believe we're going to stand up. Are you kidding? A lot of our allies think that Obama is not trustworthy. They feel that they're going to be double-crossed if they side with us. So the Saudis have every reason to believe, as do the Israelis, that Obama is going to say one thing and possibly do another. I mean, look what he's done to the Israelis. He got on Benjamin Netanyahu for saying he no longer believes in a two-state solution, just something that Bibi said for campaign purposes. That told Obama that my position towards Israel is now evolving. Yet the Ayatollah can say death to America, and that does not cause him to rethink his Iran deal. So if I were Saudi Arabia, I would be very concerned. I would look out for number one first, and then maybe hope that the United States will do what they say they're going to do and back me up. But I wouldn't rely on it.
Interesting. Let's switch to some domestic politics so we get everything from the weekend. Today we find out that the Clinton Foundation has had to reveal that there were more payments that they received, more contributions that they did not disclose per the agreement with the Obama administration when Hillary took the Secretary of State position. I do want to clarify, because I've seen a lot of people suggesting that this was undisclosed receipts that they didn't disclose on their tax return. That's not the case, but they did fail to disclose who gave this money as they were supposed to do per the agreement with the administration. What do you think's going on here?
What's going on here is that they didn't want people to know what was going on. They didn't want people to think that people were giving money for favors. I suspect it's sloppy. But you're right. They didn't cheat the IRS on anything, but they have not abided by the deal. They were supposed to not take certain amount of money from anybody while Hillary was serving as Secretary of State. That clearly was not followed. So I think this is going to be a gift that keeps on giving.
So here's what I wonder about. I completely agree with you when you say it's sloppy. Of course it was sloppy. But, you know, it's not like it was a big secret to these folks that Hillary would probably take a shot at the White House this time around. So they had to know that they were going to have to come clean with this, as they are. So was it intentional? Was it really a question of trying to hide it? Or was it, as you say, just sloppy?
Who knows? I think it might be all of the above. Look, we're never going to know whether or not there's a quid pro quo. It's almost impossible to prove that. I remember Charles Keating, the one that got busted for Keating 5. Yes. He had handcuffs on, Jeff. He's being taken away, and some reporter shouted out, "Hey, do you think you were buying access when you gave the politicians money?" He said, "I certainly hope so."
Right. Well, that is how it works. No disagreement there. Okay, we got a short time left. I've got to ask you the most important question of the day.
Right.
There's a story out that a 110-year-old man, 110, you know how he got to be that old? He drinks a beer every day. What do you think, man? You think this is the future of healthcare?
Obamacare. My dad lived to be almost 96 years old.
Seriously?
He never touched this stuff. Maybe he should have drunk more beer.
See, this is the problem. You get one report that a beer a day is responsible. Your dad never touched it. Then you hear about the people who smoked a pack of cigarettes a day and lived till 105.
Right. And
I don't know what to believe.
And George Burns smoked a cigar every day, lived to be 100. This guy ate bacon and lived to be 100. Well, you know, what they do is find somebody who lived to be 100 and say, "What did you do?" And they assume that that was the causal factor. We have no idea.
I got to let you go, man, but go out and test it over the weekend. Have a beer, and you have a great holiday. Coming up next, a trial attorney, and a contributor on the Daily Wrap, Heather Hansen, joins us.